been connected to the largest spiritual network on the planet. The Jeffrey Darty Show. Guide your own spirit, master your own ascension, be your own guru. And now, showing you how, here's Jeffrey Darty.
Well, hi, folks. Nice to see you again here tonight. I think we've got a fantastic show for you tonight, complete with a nice little webinar about the secrets of the hidden secrets, actually, of the peace sign, the cross, and the crucifix. You will be able to ask questions right in the chat room, which is there right next to the video that you're now watching. Just create a name for yourself, sign in, and you'll be able to chat amongst the other folks. It might be a little difficult for me at the beginning to answer your questions because I will be dealing with the webinar, but we will have plenty of time at the conclusion of the show to make sure that any and every one of your questions get answered. If you need to contact me in between shows, and of course we're here Monday through Friday, so tonight and tomorrow night, then a little break, back again on Monday. On Monday I'll be joined, I believe it's Monday, yes, on Monday I'll be joined by Melissa Hubbard, who is the author of a new book called Spanking City Hall, detailing her journey from professional dominatrix to founder of the Indiana Tea Party, to now a cultural crusader and advocate for the sacred feminine. We're going to be talking on Monday about the sacred feminine, about the divine feminine, and how Paul how Paul kicked Diana out of Ephesus, and how the Nero-Pauline matrix started and talked about in my book, Apostle Paul Antichrist, how it has affected the sacred feminine and the divine feminine. Of course, that's the same thing. So Monday with Melissa Hubbard on the sacred feminine. And I'm looking forward to making a big announcement, hopefully on tomorrow's show, about some exciting things that we're going to be doing going forward. But contact me if you like. Right on the website, there's the contact button. You can also email me, jeffrey@imnck.com. I'm available on Twitter @NCKabbalah, and on Facebook, Jeffrey Darty Show, and just plain old Jeffrey Darty. So there's so many things that we see on an everyday basis, and I think so many times we miss some very profound things because we do not take notice of the things that are around us. I'm reminded of the saying, familiarity breeds contempt, and that is certainly true, especially in a positive sense. In other words, we do not take note of positive things because of familiarity. We get so familiar with them that we have contempt for them. But familiarity breeds contempt also works in a negative fashion, in that the fear-based control matrix that is controlling us can cause us to become filled with contempt and characterized by contempt for symbols that are displaying and promoting their dominance over us, and consistently and constantly reminding us of our place of servitude and the fact that we are theirs, bought and paid for. And as the train goes by, these symbols lose their vitality to us. They lose their place of aha, and every now and then it's requisite upon a crazy ex-Pentecostal evangelist to remind you of the things that you have long since stopped noticing and long since stopped taking notice of. It's like the old movie where the fellow put on the sunglasses and he was able to see the aliens that were among them. They Live was the name of that movie, a John Carpenter movie. He was able to see all the subliminal messages within the signs and within the symbols and the colors, interestingly enough. And that's where we are in regards to many symbols, but I've chosen these three, the peace sign, the cross, and the crucifix. And we're going to take an in-depth look at those symbols so we can see that they live, that they are among us, and that they are flagrantly and blatantly displaying to us their superiority over us, their dominance of us, and our subservience, our foolishness, and our sheep-like nature and tendency. They're doing this to us, and they're rubbing our faces in it, and I think it's about time that we realize, know, and understand what we're dealing with. Now, the things I share with you tonight really are not opinion. They are objective fact based upon symbology. These are not things I've made up. These are not things that I have dreamt up. These are not things that I took out my crayons and colored. This is an objective look at symbols, and I will leave it to you to decide what to make of it and what it means for you in your life. But I ask you to set aside your preconceived notions. I ask you to try to think objectively for the next few minutes that we're together. And as we take a look, see if you do not understand and are not able to comprehend the secrets of the peace sign, the cross, and the crucifix, and if you're not able to grasp what it may be meaning in your life. So let's go ahead and take a look now at some of these signs. And as I've talked about it, we're going to break down these three very common symbols, and we're going to learn some shocking truths about what they mean and their veiled prophetic significance. The peace sign, the cross, and the crucifix on the Jeffrey Daugherty Show. So let's begin to look right now at the peace sign. And if you were with us the other night on our show that talked about symbols, you'll be familiar with the circle and its significance as a symbol. As you see there, the peace sign, of course, does start with a simple circle. And the circle is emblematic of, as we learned the other night in our show on symbols, the circle is emblematic of eternity. Infinity makes sense. There's no beginning, there's no end to a circle. There's no stop, there's no start. So you can see how it pictures eternity, how it pictures infinity. And you can also understand by the shape of it why the circle has long been represented with planet Earth. So when you see a circle in symbology, you're thinking eternity, you're thinking infinity, you're thinking the Earth or sometimes another planet, but at this point we're thinking about eternity, we're thinking about infinity, and we're thinking about planet Earth, and I'm thinking of efinity, whatever that is. I think that's eternity and infinity combined. That's another dimension. So the peace sign starts with the circle, and then what we add to the circle to make the peace sign is this upside down rune, which is really the picture of a human being. And when you add the picture of a human being to the earth, the eternal earth, the infinite earth, and that human being is in that position, and he's placed, or she is placed in that place within the circle, do you notice anything unusual? Well, that person is upside down. And that person is upside down in the peace symbol because that person is actually dead. To those that are practitioners of symbols and to those that understand the ancient symbols, and of course to those that invented these symbols, this symbol that has been sold to us as the peace sign is actually known as the death rune. So what the peace sign is teaching us is that humanity is dead. Humanity is dead, and not only that, we have the circle around the outside. Humanity is dead on planet Earth. Humanity is dead for infinity. Humanity is dead for eternity. And also we learned from our show on symbology that the circle is also rendered as a symbol of protection or boundary. So another message from the promoters of the peace sign is not only is man dead on earth, not only is this death and this subjugation eternal and infinite, but because of the boundary circle, the man cannot get out, and help, as symbolized by this red arrow, cannot get in. So folks, the powers that be, those that control the Neo-Pauline matrix today, want us to believe that we are dead, we are eternally dead, we are eternally bound, we are infinitely under their siege and control on planet Earth, and that we cannot escape, and that help cannot come to us. And that is true as long as we allow them to control the discourse, as long as we throw our hands up and go, this is ridiculous, as long as we begin to keep our head firmly buried in the sand and go off and watch Game of Thrones rather than talk about who sits on the throne of the earth and rules over us, as long as we continue to play their game and as long as we continue to allow them to dictate at 11:11 the circumstances, then we do stay bound, we do stay dead, we do stay under their thumb. And it's been now, in this current iteration of humanity, 2,000 years of subjugation, 2,000 years of subjection, 2,000 years of slavery to a system that was designed to keep us fearful and under control, a system that hijacked the teachings of a man that was to bring us liberty, peace, and understanding. Of course, that man was who we call Jesus, really Yeshua the Christ. So that's what the peace sign really teaches us, and what's been sold to us since the 60s. Your grandfather's groovy peace symbol was nothing more than a declaration from the rulers of the matrix that they had stopped the awakening and that they were trapping us in death. In the 1960s, folks, we came very close to a great move of ascension and a great move of consciousness. We almost found the 100th monkey back in the 1960s, and there was such a move of realization and such a move of ascension and such a move up into higher vibrations. The early music of people like Paul McCartney and the Beatles, obviously, very high-minded, very high-level vibrational music. It was lifting us up. People were, coming against war. People were coming against corporate control. People were coming against the dominant Ozzie and Harriet type 50s, where everybody did just such things in just such ways. The playfully rebellious spirit of Elvis had spread throughout the culture. The Beatles with their what was considered then shaggy hair. And it was a time where we were dramatically ascending as a human race, and of course the rulers of the matrix saw that, moved in with things like false flags, moved in with things like the Gulf of Tonkin, which was faked to enable us to drag a generation of our youngest and finest to die on a foreign shore of a people that had not attacked us. Things like the assassination of a beloved president, and then of course more nefarious things like the introduction into our populace of dangerous and mind-altering drugs that stopped the ascension and stopped the enlightenment in its tracks, and of course the encouragement of energy robbing and enlightenment robbing, unrestrained use of sexuality. Nothing wrong with sexuality, but when you join yourself to a person, there's an energetic price to be paid if it's the wrong type of person. And they used all these different type things to suck off the enlightenment and the affinity. I believe, and I'm going to talk about this at length in the future, that they actually went into the astral realm and attacked Paul McCartney and brainwashed him in the astral realm. Obviously, they used plants like Jim Morrison, whose father was in charge of the group of battleships that was allegedly attacked. It was definitely a false flag, the 1960s. And this symbol comes out of it saying, look, you thought you were going to ascend, you thought you were going to be enlightened, but we have kept you dead, and you're not getting away. It's going to be eternal. This earth is ours, and you can't get out, and no help can get in. So you are ours. That's the message of the peace sign. So if you have one around your neck, or if you have one on your wall, or if you wear one on a shirt, you might want to consider what you should do about that, because these signs do carry intention. These signs do carry, I don't want to say power, but they do carry vibration, they do carry intention, they do carry energy, and it's up to you to decide if that's the type of energy that you want to have available and taking place around you. So totally and completely up to you. So moving on from the peace sign, we want to take a look at the cross. And right away somebody's going to say, Jeff, that's not a cross. Well, if you remember the red cross, that is a cross, and that's what I would call an elemental cross, or that is a cross of a true cross, I would call it, a true cross of that predated the religious crosses that have come in and taken over. And this is what the true cross looked like, and we're going to take a look more in depth at the cross in just a couple of minutes. We'll be right back, and we'll get into the cross, and we'll do that in just a couple minutes.
Apostle Paul, Antichrist, my new novel, may just be the most important book ever written about Christianity since the Bible. Footnoted pages, you'll read how the Apostle Paul hijacked the original teachings of Jesus and twisted them into a fear-based control matrix we still live under today. George Norrie, host of Coast to Coast AM, says, based on ancient and biblical facts combining 20-plus years of Bible study, Darty seizes upon truths we've been conditioned to for centuries and turns them on their head as they're woven throughout this riveting story. Do not let the title turn you away. This tale calls the attention of every individual regardless of belief system. Darty delivers innovation, talent, and bravery. Scotty Roberts of Ancient Aliens and Intrepid magazine adds, prepare to have your sensibilities shattered and your traditions truncated as you ask yourself, do I really know what lies beneath my religion? Apostle Paul, Antichrist, my new novel, available now from NCK Press at www.imnck.com. Get yours today.
Well, hello, folks. This is Jeff Darty. We're back, and I hope that you're enjoying this look at the three common symbols that we take for granted and the secrets behind them and the damnable things that people are doing to us with those symbols. And you'll probably hear that music in the background. I thought I'd let it go. It sounds kind of nice for the next minute or so. So we've looked at the peace sign, and I think you've got a new revelation of what the peace sign means. Let's get back in and look again at the cross. So here's the cross. Again, it's the elemental cross. When you see it in this fashion, you notice that it's very balanced. It's a very stable symbol. Completely balanced, completely stable, very much related to the earth, with pointing to the four winds, as they're known, pointing to the four corners of the earth. Very solid, very stable. In fact, many times you'll see the cross with the circle around it, and in that instance, that is actually the astrological symbol for planet Earth. So the cross was always a very natural, a very earthy, a very balanced symbol. Very stable, very connected to the earth, and very, very balanced. Good old, solid, rock solid, planet Earth, balanced stability. That's what the cross, from the beginning of its introduction as a symbol, has been indicative of until the advent of Christianity. And look what Christianity did to the cross. Now remember, folks, I spent 20 years as a Christian evangelist, licensed by the 3 largest Pentecostal organizations in the world. So I do have a Bible college degree, and I do have an understanding of Christianity, and I am speaking from experience. And I guess I just want you to know that this comes from 30 years of gut-wrenching realization. It's not something I particularly take joy in having to report, but I do take joy in being able to show people that things are being rubbed in our face, and that people that really want to follow the message of Yeshua, Jesus, the Christ, are being duped by a group that hijacked his message and is now turned it into a fear-based control matrix. And this is even declared in their symbology, as we will see. So what Christianity did was came in and took the perfectly balanced cross and unbalanced it with this extra portion on the lower half of that cross beam. So now a symbol that was balanced, a symbol that was very stable, is now made unstable and is now made unbalanced. And they have also doubled the distance to the divine. I say double, but it's really increased the distance to the divine by 1/3. What do I mean by that? I mean, if we think of the cross, the bottom of the cross as man, we think of the top of the cross as the divine, and we think of this distance as our travel from where we are to where we want to be. Well, Christianity comes along and adds a whole nother portion. And think about the things they have added, the rules, the regulations. All of a sudden we can't go straight to God anymore, but we go through intermediaries. Even the Protestants that pride themselves on not having to go through priests still have to go to church, still have to perform rituals, still can't get straight answers to a lot of their questions. And they really have, whether in its Catholic or Protestant iterations, Christians have added to the distance from man to the divine by at least 1/3. Now on the right there you see what is known as the life rune. That's what it looks like when man is upright, when woman is upright and free and healthy. I mean, that looks like a happy person. That looks about the way I would draw as a stick person. But that's the life rune, and you can see that the cross breaks the arms of the life rune. It's almost as if you can see them breaking the will of that person who is enlightened and free, and having them into a place of neutrality and bondage. So the Christian's cross, the cross of Christianity, increases the distance from man to the divine. It breaks the arms of the life rune, and it takes what was a beautiful, balanced, and stable symbol and makes it very, very unbalanced. And if you think I'm speculating there, well, let's just take a look at this, and you can see exactly what I mean in graphic terms. Here is the original elemental cross. Here is the Christian cross with their addition onto it. Now, as some of you have already figured out, the F and the M stand for female and male. Female has always been symbolized by an upside-down triangle. The male, or the masculine, has always been symbolized by a right-side-up triangle. And of course, if you put your thinking cap on, you can understand that symbology. I don't think we need to go into that in depth. And the original cross, the elemental cross, you see a complete balance between feminine and masculine. And when we have a balance between feminine and masculine, we do have complete and total balance as a person, as a society, and even as a planetary unit. Because the female essence is balanced with the masculine essence, and we get balance, we get stability, we get wholeness. Enter the Christian cross, throwing the elemental cross out of balance, and you see you still have the feminine here, but look how the masculine has become completely unbalanced, heavily dominant, and is made this into a completely unbalanced system. And what happens when you have a system, a society, or a planet that is so heavily dominated by masculine energy? Well, you get hyper aggressiveness, you get hyper control, you get hyper fear, you get hyper aggression, you get hyper wars, you get wars and rumors of wars, you get famine, pestilence, earthquakes, you get control, you get more and more laws, you get more and more rules, more and more regulations, and you get more and more deception and lies, because that's what happens in that side, in that masculine energy. Now, when it's balanced, it's great. I know this is silly, but one of the best illustrations I've ever seen of it, you can think, oh, well, I'm against the masculine energy. That's stupid. I'm not. I'm a man, and we need our masculine energy. But I think about the old Star Trek episode where Captain Kirk was split in two by the transporter. And, you know, this was Captain Kirk before he got split into two, balanced in his masculinity and his femininity, the best captain in Starfleet, and obviously the greatest science fiction hero of all time. But when he got split up into his two pieces, that feminine part of him that was impotent, and the masculine part of him just was crazy, could not properly act without the moderation, without the completeness of that feminine side. And that's what happens to us as a society. And, you know, thankfully Spock did the Vulcan neck pinch on him. They got him back into the transporter, and everything was fine. But, you know, we used to be balanced, now we're out of balance, and it's almost like heresy. It's almost like a trip to the dentist to get people to realize we've got to come back into balance. A lot of I guarantee you the Neo-Pauline Matrix doesn't want to see this come back into balance. I guarantee you the Illuminati doesn't want to see this come back into balance. I guarantee you the governments of the earth don't want to see this come back into balance. They're like William Shatner, Captain Kirk in that episode, that masculinity, they're screaming, I want to live! I want to live! If you saw that episode, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But that's the problem that's been created by this situation. And if we move on with the symbolism, adding insult to our collective injury, you can see that they will many times add the circle onto the cross. So what is this telling us when this takes place? What is this telling us when they do this? Man, it really starts getting interesting and very, very, I would say, disgusting. From this point, we're going to finish up on that cross with the circle, take a look at the crucifix, and bring things to a close. And we'll be right back to conclude that after just a short little break.
Mark Twain said it's much easier to convince someone of a lie than it is to convince them they've been lied to. But that doesn't mean we stop trying. Listen to the Jeffrey Daugherty Show Monday through Friday, 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m.
All right, folks, let's go ahead and pick up where we left off, talking about the cross, getting into that cross where they will put the circle on top. And some of you, I think, are probably already guessing where we're going with this. And it's written out there for you to see on the slide. When you add the circle over the cross, you've got the unbalanced cross. And what they're saying by adding that circle to it is that we are proclaiming dominion over the earth of our unbalanced fear-based control matrix, and we're proclaiming it forever. The duality of the earth as a circle and eternity and eternalness as a circle, and the unbalanced cross. So not only are they saying, yeah, we have managed to have dominion over you for 2,000 years, but we also are going to keep our dominion over earth forever of our unbalanced cross. And it gets even worse when you look at this symbol, which is commonly known as the crucifix. And I understand the sensitivity, but these are symbols, and I am the messenger of the symbol, so don't shoot the messenger. Again, you have your unbalanced cross. And now they've added a dead guy on it. So not only do we have the eternal dominion of their unbalanced authoritarian power, but now they've added eternal death and servitude for humanity by this symbolism. And just in case we missed what they're trying to say, you will see them from time to time combine it all together, just in case we miss the whole point. Now we've got death to humanity, dead humanity, staked to their unbalanced cross, hemmed in by a force field circle, and of course that circle proclaiming that this is something that's going to last forever. This symbol here, I would have to say, would be the ultimate symbol of death and control. Perhaps one of the most nefarious symbols ever conceived by the mind of humanity. A dead human on an unbalanced cross, hemmed in by a circle of boundary, a circle that proclaims this is going to last forever. And as we conclude, I want to take a look at one more symbol that's emerging, and this is by way of prediction to you. I think I'll leave that there just to keep you mindful of what we're talking about. If you've been following our shows of late, you remember about, I think it was either just before or after my appearance on Coast to Coast, that we had the show about, and I just completely lost my train of thought, about the Pope, and I think it was the day before going on Coast to Coast. The Pope sent the message to Kenneth Copeland, which is an American Pentecostal evangelist who was holding a big symposium conference of Pentecostal pastors, and the Pope sends this message: we want to reunify with you, whereupon Kenneth Copeland pulls out his iPhone and has a guy who was an emissary of the Pope tape a message back to the Pope that says, we want to unify with you too. And think about that. Since Martin Luther nailed his theses on the doors of the Wittenberg Chapel, there's been a great schism between Catholicism and Protestantism, and for very valid reasons. They were two very, very different iterations of the same thing. It really was the Hatfield and McCoys. It was really a family feud, if you will, but yet there were some very big differences. But with the Pope saying, let's get back together, with Kenneth Copeland saying, let's get back together, I'm making a prediction tonight that coming soon to a church near you will be the Crucifix. Even though I sometimes have difficulty believing that Pentecostals have come to the place where they would allow unification with the Catholic Church, that could not have happened 20 years ago when I was still active in Pentecostal churches. They would not have allowed it. They would not even listen to a Catholic priest. I remember several occasions where some preachers were trying to bring Catholic priests into churches to teach, and the people would literally get up and leave. They just would not abide it because there was such a difference. And even now, I don't think that Pentecostal people or Christians as a whole would be willing to accept the inclusion and display of the crucifix within their churches. And I also don't believe that the Catholic Church is willing to give up the crucifix. So here comes the Crucifix. The Crucifix is a mediation between the two. You've still got your unbalanced cross, your proclamation of dominion by the Nero-Pauline matrix, and you've got a representation of their Jesus still showing the marks of death, showing that they still had the power to kill this person that people believe is the Son of God. They still show that they killed him, but they let him take his hands off the cross at least, and you have an amalgamation here between Catholicism and Protestantism, and I believe this is going to be the symbol moving forward. And if it is the symbol of the amalgamation of these two churches, if it is the symbol of the great last days, end time church before things change in this age of the planet, then it could be rightly spoken of as the ultimate symbol of death and control. It's Catholicism's built-in drop. That's a term from sales. If you go to buy something and the price is $100, they'll be glad to let you pay $100, but the reality is that you could probably get it for about $90 or $95. That's a drop. There's a $5 drop built in. Catholicism, knowing that they wanted to bring everything back together, realizing that Protestants would probably never accept the crucifix, and I expect there to be some argument. I expect there to be some back and forth. You can maybe look for some hardline rhetoric by the Pope about having to accept the crucifix. But at the end of the day, you'll see this symbol being accepted, and the reality is that it's the one that they really expected to have accepted all along. It's their built-in drop. So that, folks, brings us to the end of the discussion of these different symbols and how they were smuggled into our brains, and how they are blatantly displayed before our very eyes. And it just makes me wonder, what else do they have in store for us if they're willing to be this blatant about these symbols? And then, of course, it makes me wonder, what will you do now that you know about these symbols? I used to feel bad bringing out the truth and pointing out the nefarious nature of what has passed for Christianity today. I don't feel bad about it anymore. For 2,000 years, they have controlled us. They have kept us under their thumbs. And now, finally, we're waking up. And I don't feel bad about being someone that is sounding the alarm. I don't feel bad about being the rooster that's out there cock-a-doodle-doing. I was going to do a rooster call, but I think the William Shatner impression earlier was quite enough for this edition of the Jeffrey Daugherty Show. So there you have it. If you'll give me just one moment, I'll take a look and see if we were able to, if there were any questions that wanted to be asked in the chat room, and let me cover those if they in fact are there. I have to give myself a chat name if I want to enter in. Okay, let's see. Does not look like there are any questions waiting for me there. Let me see if we have any questions waiting over on Twitter. And I have done such a good job that there is not even one single question. How about that? If you're watching this on YouTube after the June 12th presentation of it, feel free to send me an email, jeffrey@imnck.com. Of course, you can reply right there on the video. You can go to my Google Hangouts, which has its own URL now, Jeff Daugherty Show. You can also go to my YouTube page, which is still under Gotham, like in Batman LTD. And you can also go to my Facebook, Jeffrey Daugherty or Jeffrey Daugherty Show, and you can reach me as well on Twitter under NC Kabbalah. We now have 125,000 plus members, busily building the largest spiritual network on the planet, and doing so we can bind ourselves together, we can gain strength from our numbers and from our combined energy and intention. Tomorrow night, Friday night, we'll wrap up the week with another stunningly profound show. I'm going to be talking about Jesus and the Ten Commandments, and it's unlike anything you've ever heard before. It's the reality of the Ten Commandments. Some people say that Jesus spiritualized the Ten Commandments. He really did not. He realitized the Ten Commandments. He took what had been formed into a legalistic list of 10 rules and showed us with profound teaching the true nature of the Ten Commandments. And you don't want to miss that. I know that you probably have some TV shows you like to watch on Friday night, or you have some places you like to go. But go ahead and put on the the TiVo, or take a break for, I'll keep that to a half an hour, hopefully, or 45 minutes like tonight. And if all else fails and you can't be with us tomorrow night, then make sure that you check it out on YouTube, because they are almost instantaneously uploaded as we're streaming them live to our website, www.imnck.com. And you want to be tuned in for a special announcement on tomorrow night. But now you know why when I say peace, I give 3, and really I should do peace like this, because it looks more like the life reading. I think I'll start doing that. And until tomorrow night, I'm Jeffrey Daugherty, and I'm wishing you peace and light. And we will see you on tomorrow night. If you have any questions, I'm here to answer them for you. We'll see you on tomorrow night.